Penn State fans, we are winging it. We are winging it today. Bob Flounders, Max Ralph, Blue White Breakdown. Happy Thanksgiving. A little early. Short week. Penn State, Rutgers. Max Ralph. That was a pretty impressive performance by Penn State on senior night. 37-10. They whooped up on the Cornhuskers. It was a game that felt like Max for about a couple of possessions. And then it just seemed like Penn State wanted it more and took it. And now they are one game away, one win away from bowl eligibility. If you're a Penn State fan, you can say whoop-de-doo, 6-6. But man, Max, it was 3-6. There were no guarantees how it was going to play out. They fought very hard under Terry Smith the last two games. Now they face a Rutgers team that they haven't just beat. They have overwhelmed throughout the history of this series. I think it's 32-2. They're 10-0 in conference play, Max. The games have not been close. Rutgers has not scored a lot of points. I think 13 is the most they might have ever scored in a Big Ten game against Penn State. But you know what, Max? They're playing for their bowl lives, just like Penn State is. How do you see this week shaping up for Penn State and Terry Smith?
Yeah, you can say whoop-de-doo that they're fighting for a bowl game, but look, this one probably means something to the guys in the locker room. I mean, I talked to a couple of guys after the game about it. They thought they were going to win a national championship this year. I mean, let's just put it as it is. And then their head coach gets fired, the guy who recruited them. And no matter your own personal opinions about James Franklin, everybody in that locker room felt pretty good about him. And now they're in a position where, you know what? Yeah, they could get one more game with all these guys that they've spent 4 years with. And I think that they care about it. And I think they care about Terry Smith, which, as you and I talked about it on our post-game podcast, our post-game video, they do care about Terry Smith quite a lot.
It made it pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean, a display unlike any other with the support for him as the next head coach. So, yeah, I mean, look, fans certainly have a right to not care too much about this game this weekend. But also, I do think that everybody on the field and in the locker room is going to care quite a bit about this one.
Yeah, Max, Frank Badani asked Terry Smith today on the Monday presser, which recently just concluded, hey, you guys get to 6-6. What are your thoughts about your veterans and your seniors playing in this game? Do you believe they're going to play? And you know, I guess Terry wouldn't have said no even if he thought so. But he clearly believes he has the locker room. It's his locker room. He believes they want to play. Not only, I mean, for a postseason game. Now, look, a lot of these veterans have some decisions to make. He did say there might be one or two. You can't really predict. He's going to deal with it as it comes. But as far as the majority of them, he said absolutely he thinks they want to play.
Yeah, and I mean, it just goes in line with the story that he told us last week on Monday where he said, look, there's a guy who is a senior who I'm not going to say his name, but it would surprise you if I did, has already asked me when we're going to be practicing after we win these next two games and have a bowl game because he doesn't want to miss a family obligation, but also doesn't want to miss practice. So, look, they're playing hard for Terry Smith. They're playing hard to salvage this year. There's a lot of good that came out of this team. As Terry has mentioned multiple times, as I think we've said on this podcast, they had 34 wins between 2022 and 2024. This is a team that has won more games in a 3-year stretch than anybody else in Penn State history. Katron Allen just became the program's all-time leading rusher on Saturday. Like, that's a big freaking deal. Nick Singleton is breaking touchdown scoring records that were held by, just some guy named Saquon Barkley. Year was not what we expected. Not at all how we thought this was going to go or how they thought they were going to go. But if you were inside that locker room, I think you could understand why you might want to play. There will be guys. There will be guys who opt out of the bowl. Don't take what we're saying wrong. Like, there are going to be guys who want to enter the transfer portal and who want to just prepare for the NFL. But I do think that there will be some names playing, at least in the first half of that game, that you might be surprised by.
Plus, Max, with the possibility of playing in Detroit over the holidays. I mean, what? I kid, but I think that the only reason I bring that up, Penn State fans, is that I think that would be a potential one of the potential games that Penn State might have lined up in the postseason. I think a lot of Penn State fans wouldn't mind a New York City trip if they were going to play in the postseason, but I have seen it out there as Detroit as a possibility. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. This is a Rutgers team that is they scored offensively. They scored in a lot of the Big Ten games. They just made a trip out to Columbus, and Ohio State beat them pretty good, even without their two best wideouts.
Yeah,
who Penn State secondary got to know very well a couple of weeks ago. It was tough sledding for Rutgers, but you know what? They have scored. They have been pretty competitive in most of their games. The way that Penn State is playing right now, I know that's probably a topic for you, and well, that's actually we probably have to talk about when you guys are going to be doing a podcast, or if you're going to be doing a podcast on. It's not going to be on Thanksgiving, but I think Max. I guess my point is at home. Yeah, I think Rutgers is definitely they're going to come to play. The question is, do they have the talent maybe to stay with a motivated Penn State team?
Yeah, that's the thing. Both these teams are motivated. Don't get me wrong, because as we talked about a couple of times, like this was the chance for some of these teams that have been blown out by Penn State for years on end. To get at Penn State, like this is when the Nittany Lions are vulnerable. Rutgers is certainly one of those teams. We joked about Maryland not getting that chance when I think Mike Loxley would have really wanted it. But I just think that the display we saw Saturday night, like this kind of looks like the Penn State team that was ranked number 2 to start the year. I'm not sure that they'd beat I'm not sure that they'd beat teams in the top 10 right now in this current version. But also, like Indiana is still the number 2 team in the country, and Penn State only lost that game by 3. I mean, they played quite well in that game, and they've only gotten better in the past 2 weeks since. Like that was a thumping of Nebraska, an absolute thumping, and like Terry Smith, everything that he keeps saying, it's because they're doing this thing the way that it was supposed to happen a while ago. Like. I think that Penn State. I haven't made my official prediction yet, but I think Penn State probably rolls again this weekend.
Yeah, I mean I think the line opened at like 10 and a half, and the way that they are playing, I have to say, like I don't know about you, one of my favorite moments of Terry's presser today was his very short, succinct explanation. For what's going on with the rejuvenated O-line play.
Yeah.
I think I wrote it down verbatim. There's a point of emphasis that we're going to run the football. And that was the entire answer. So he's not messing around. I don't think Penn State's messing around. You know exactly what they're going to try and do. They're going to try and slam it down your throat and then build off play action. And now that they have a quarterback and a passing game that is starting to do that, they're a much more complete offense. We'll see how it goes on Saturday, but it was really, dating back to the second half of the Indiana game. They just kind of ran it at Michigan State because that's all they really needed to do. But that was a pretty nice display by Ethan Grunkemeyer and his supporting skill cast against a pretty good Nebraska secondary, Max.
Yeah, I mean Nebraska was 3rd in the country coming into the day. Yeah. Their rushing defense was pretty terrible. They were getting beat that way. But look, minus the fact that they lost their starting quarterback, this Nebraska team was ranked for a lot of this season, and Penn State just manhandled them. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I love the way that Terry Smith, when he wants to, will just say something incredibly bluntly like that with the offensive line. Yeah. But also, I don't know that this was necessarily what he was implying, but it also just gets to the point for me where it's like, okay, so the identity was always supposed to be Katron Allen and Nick Singleton and this offensive line that you thought was going to win the Joe Moore Award coming into the year. And it kind of was that last year with, Tyler Warren and his added presence. But then you spent the first 6 weeks of the year with James Franklin trying to prove that you could throw the ball to these transfer wide receivers. But not only were you trying to prove that you could throw the ball, but you weren't doing it down the field. You were doing it horizontally with all this gimmicky stuff that Andy Kotelnicki had. And it just seems like Terry Smith was like, what the hell are we doing, guys? Like, throw the ball down the field, run the football, and here we are, and the results are speaking for themselves. It's another indictment on whatever went wrong at the start of this year for Penn State, which was a lot. And but I think it's funny, and I do appreciate the candor that Terry typically speaks with because it's entertaining.
It certainly is, Max Ralph. It's the Blue White Breakdown here. Bob Flounders, Max Ralph. Thanks for watching or just listening. I'll probably have a lot of opinions on it once there's a little bit of time after the season concludes, Max. But when I think about the start of the season and why Penn State was number 2 and it just didn't happen for them and it cost James Franklin his job, the two things that I think right now that are definitely part of my thought process is, number one, I do think it's been suggested this, and I think even the players might even admit it. They bought into their press clippings a little bit at the start of the season. The other thing is, Max, Kaytron Allen should have been getting 20 carries a game from the start. And as we're talking about Nick Singleton and the touchdown record, and he is deserving of what he's done over 4 years to be challenging that. And I think he's tied. Isn't he tied with Barkley? He needs one more. And all of that is true, but he is. I hate to use the term complimentary, but when you have Kaytron Allen and somebody who could just get down, is just a nasty runner, he should have been the focus from the start. And too often he was not on the field. That also cost them, I think, in a couple of games. But that's probably a topic for a podcast in January, Max. But regarding Terry Smith and his candor, I think we even talked about it after the game. Another thing that I think has changed is he will confront you if you are not playing to your potential, and it doesn't matter what your status is on the team. If he doesn't think you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, A, he's going to let you know, and B, he's probably going to let you know in front of the entire team. And a lot of the players I think we've talked to kind of they're glad that that's happening because you gotta be that way if you're going to be a serious football team. They're serious now, and I just don't think that bodes well for Rutgers.
No, I would agree with you. The players, absolutely. I heard from a couple of guys that, like Zane Durant, who's a captain and usually a very measured guy, when we talked to him, said, "Yeah, I think we were doing some stuff at the beginning of the year that we aren't usually doing, as far as like believing we had all that hype and we were that kind of team." And then he also talked about how much Terry has come in and just been honest with them and all that stuff. And we heard from the offensive line a couple times that we watch full team, full offense, full defense film sessions now, which happened every now and then under Franklin, but now it's much more frequent. And Terry Smith is not afraid to call anybody out. And yes, that's a huge reason for why this team has been able to turn it around. I think that it's a bunch of guys without names on the field who are just going and playing hard football, and I'm curious, like, obviously there's a lot of layers to the coaching search that is still going on that probably will have a resolution within the next couple of weeks. But if Terry Smith is the full-time guy, this approach has been perfect for what this Penn State team needed. They needed somebody to humble them. They needed somebody to come in and make these changes. But when you're in an era of NIL and the fact that there are guys who are being paid more than others, and this is more like a professional game than a amateur game now. Like, you're not going to the NFL and coaching. Who should I use this as? You're not coaching the Philadelphia Eagles and like telling AJ Brown to not do what he's doing, because obviously that's a weird situation with the Eagles, but it's a Super Bowl winning team, and these guys get treated differently. So I don't know if that model is. I don't know. Like, if Terry becomes a full-time guy, I think it works for what the college program is supposed to be, but things are different now. It's interesting. But one of the points that Terry made today that I really loved was he seeks the same level of truth-telling and accountability from everybody he talks to. Like, for example, he said, when we talk to these players, sometimes we get demonstrative. Like, sometimes we get emotional, yell at them, whatever. But he was like, if we cross a line, like, I want players to come back at me too and say, "Coach, don't talk to me that way." Yeah. And he talked about, like, even when he talks to, Penn State's PR people, like, tell me what I did wrong in that press conference. Like, I just think that Terry has a really impressive approach to accountability and relationship building at Penn State right now. I think it's what this team needed in this situation. I don't know if it would work in a full-time basis, But it's working right now, and that's all you can really ask for.
Well said, Max. Well said. Yeah, and I appreciate it. He said, whether it's KP or Greg Kincaid, I could see a scenario where he's like, hey, guys, how did I do Monday? Was I too hard on Bob Flounders? Because I don't want to be that way. What about Max? No. I'm just kidding. We're moving right along here on the Blue White Breakdown. Max, I got 5 things left on my plate to get to with you. I don't know what you have left, but let's just go through them. 4 of them are players, okay? I want to start with 2 that Terry talked about and 2 that he didn't talk about that I want to talk with you about. Ethan Grunkemeyer, Mr. 11 of 12 for 181 and a score. You think back to the starting debut at Iowa. You think back to just going against Ohio State's defense. Number 1 Ohio State's defense, and you think though of the progression starting with the second half against Indiana, the Thunderbolt big play touchdown against Michigan State that really opened up the offense. Mm-hmm. He didn't throw a lot of passes in that game, and now you think about 11 for 12. And he almost completed. I think the incompletion was to Hudson, and there was a world in which maybe that could have been complete. But he also said, not only did we do that, Max, we drew a couple of pass interference penalties, but mm-hmm. they don't show up in the stats. So I don't know about you, Max. I'm sure there's maybe a world in which Ethan Grunkemeyer can play better, mm-hmm. but it might not be a world that I'm familiar with. That was a very, very efficient performance, and I think you pointed out in your question to Terry that he also distributed the ball very well. Terry talked about the routes they like to run too. I thought that was interesting as well. So as far as Ethan Grunkemeyer goes, I think Kurt Cignetti said after the Indiana game that he basically said maybe Penn State has found a young quarterback, for their future, and mm-hmm. it sure looks that way now.
Yeah, I've kind of been building the Grunkemeyer hype train for a little while, I'd say. I think he looked bad at Iowa, but I don't really think it was entirely his fault. Yeah. I think the game plan was still a little shaky. Terry didn't have a chance to get his hands on it. They still weren't quite committing to Kate. They committed to Kate Allen, but they struggled. It was a road environment. Ethan Grunkemeyer did not have his best stuff. And then he gets a little bit better at Ohio State. Like the game got out of hand quickly, but he made a couple of nice throws and still under pressure. And then you get to the Indiana game. They're coming back home. Terry Smith had 2.5 weeks to get his hands on Andy Kotelnicki. And the guy that was the wrong way to say that. Get his hands on Andy Kotelnicki in the offensive scheme is better way to put that. Mm-hmm. And the guy on paper, outdueled Fernando Mendoza, who is a top 5 Heisman candidate right now. He threw 1 more passing yard, and had a better passer rating. He just keeps getting better. I think I agree with Terry Smith and what he said today on Monday, is that he felt there was kind of a slingshot between the Michigan State game.
Slingshot. That was my favorite word. I love it. Because I probably would say slingshot too. I don't even know what the right word. Yeah. What is the past tense of slingshot?
I don't know that there is a past tense of slingshot.
That was the first time I've ever heard that word, and I think I'm going to use it moving forward.
Yeah, he said Grunk was slungshot between the Michigan State and Nebraska games, and he's right. Grunkemeyer looked so comfortable in the pocket. To me, he did so well at reading his progression, and when the first 2 reads weren't there, he was looking to move the pocket. There was one that really sticks out to me in the first half where he quite literally went 1-2, wasn't there, but he also recognized this is zone coverage or man coverage, and he just took off for 6 yards. And then there were other times where he recognized, okay, I'm in zone coverage, I can scramble and try and make it something work here. And the numbers speak for themselves. The guy only missed 1 throw, and those 6 receivers that he hit, 5 of them had a completion of 20 or more yards. Yeah. He's pushing it down the field. I think he can really sling it. And I've been saying that for a little while.
Sling it or slung it?
Slung it, yeah. I remember going back to the opener at West Virginia last year as he was warming up as a freshman. And I think I've said this on the pod a few times, but he was just throwing balls to the end zone on deep routes. And I'm kind of looking around at the people next to me. Johnny McGonigal was there, I think, and like, man, that ball looks nice. Like that looks pretty good. And I think he's a really talented thrower. I think he's getting comfortable in the pocket. And I will say, I think that he's also become a really solid leader on this offense already as a young guy. I think the guys really like him. I think he's a good positive energy guy for this offense. Like he celebrates when other guys make plays. Just been really impressed by Ethan Grunkemeyer, and I think there's absolutely an argument for him to be a starting quarterback somewhere next year, whether it's at Penn State or elsewhere.
Yeah, for me with Grunk, a defining moment for me with Grunk and his development was not on the field; it was off it when he made that announcement.
Mm-hmm.
I think coming out of the Indiana game, there was I know we've talked about it, but he kind of stood up for his teammates and the effort, and and I just thought for a young quarterback who's only played a handful of snaps at that point, it showed maturity beyond his years, and it says a lot. That's not an easy thing to do, right? That's not something that usually a second-year player says, you know what, I'm going to let the media know what I think about some things. So I just thought, that also told me that he was starting to feel comfortable. He was starting to relax a little. He was leading. He was becoming a leader in his second year. So when you do something like that, I think good things tend to follow. Good for him. We'll see if we can build on it, Max, against Rutgers. I'm sure Greg Schiano, who does know a couple things about defense, will have some surprises in store for Ethan. But the beauty of Penn State's offense is to get to Grunk, first of all, you got to solve the riddle of the running game and and kind of deal with Katron and a little bit with Nick. So it's probably easier said than done. Max, my second guy, you've already referenced him a little bit ahead of the show. How about Andrew Rappleyea, number one, getting his first touchdown? But how about what Terry said about Andrew Rappleyea?
I wrote them all down. Like there is no one in the history of like coach speak has ever coach speaked more than Terry Smith did on Andrew Rappleyea. And I'm not judging him for doing that, but like it doesn't get better than this. He said he's a rare talent. He's a difference maker on the offensive line. He's a road grader in the blocking game. You don't want to meet him in an alley because he doesn't know the end of the fight. He's Terry Smith tough. Like he hit all of them, Bob. And I was kind of giggling in the press conference there because it went from one cliche to another. And
did he say something like he's first in line with what you want, or like the first guy in line, or something like that?
I think so. And you know what? Fair, because his usage has ticked up a lot since Terry took over. He's been huge in those 12 personnel sets. They've lined him up as a fullback a couple times too. And you could tell when you talk to Rapp, the kid is he's a little different. Like he's all about this football stuff. He's one of those guys. I think you and I have talked about, like, sometimes we joke that he's like baby Gronk, and it's not just because he wears the number 87. It's like he's got that mentality too. He's definitely an intense guy who is all about punishing people in the run game when he needs to, but it's a pretty good pass catcher too.
Yes. Also, I kind of wish I would have liked to have been. You know what I like to have seen at some point, like a practice availability and viewing practice. I would kind of have liked to have seen Rappleyea go against Denia a couple times, maybe one. Yeah. I think that might have been if Rappleyea is number one on the list of Terry's list. I wonder how far down. I don't think Denia would be very far down that list, but that's just me guessing. But yes, I think you can't get that kind of praise from somebody like Terry Smith. I don't know that it gets any better than that. That was some real He-Man quality stuff. Terry Smith is a captain. He's been around a lot of tough guys. Terry Smith is a tough guy. For him to say that, boy, that's probably the ultimate compliment. Hopefully Andrew Rappleyea is going to listen to that clip, and he's listening to us talk about him. But great stuff from Terry on Andrew. I just never saw it coming, but you were up there. I don't know about you, but I was what? So my view is the question is being asked, and we're not hearing who's asking the question. We know who it is, but they're just showing Terry. And as the questions being asked about Rappleyea, the smile on Terry's face is just getting wider and
Yeah.
wider because he knows exactly what he wants to say. And I was like, yeah, okay, all right, well. He was teed up and he hit it 300 yards off the tee. So good for him. Let's move along. We've gotten to Grunk. We've gotten to Rappleyea. I want to talk about two freshmen, number 5 on the defensive side and number 99 on the defensive side. Those two have come very far, I think, since Terry Smith has taken over. They were both very effective against Nebraska, and they've kind of been showing it the last couple of games, but both of them, I thought, when you want to talk about true freshmen, have really showed out against Nebraska. I wanted to get your thoughts both on Darius Dixon, and I'm just trying to make sure I get this right. It's Ivan Kimaju? Is that right? Do I have it wrong?
I don't know
Ivan.
exactly. It's Ivan, and I've been going with Kamaju because I'm pretty sure
that's why I want to make sure I get it right, because he played his backside off, I thought, against Nebraska.
Yeah, he got his first career sack, and then his birthday was on Sunday, so that's a pretty good weekend for the kid. Yeah, and look, Dixon as well had the second most snaps of any corner, and he only trailed AJ Harris by 1 in that game.
He had the most against Michigan State.
He's really taken off.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about him last week, I think, saying like, look, that's probably the best freshman in this class. Chaz Coleman got a lot of the love, but Darius
number
Dixon
5 now
is absolutely the guy. I mean, his physicality, I think, is what's just so impressive. His ability to come in blitzes and get to the quarterback, and like he's a good cover guy. That's one thing that you can have kind of raw as a freshman, but the physicality to be able to hang with Big Ten receivers is really impressive. And Kamaju, like we kind of heard in the spring that was a guy that was starting to take off, was figuring it out early. But I think now that Terry's here and he's made a commitment to like, look, this guy's, if he's already burning his red shirt, he might as well play. He's really taken off. He was always a little bit better in the run game than the pass game. Got his first sack. He's a big body. He's a physical guy for a freshman. Really impressive. And those are two guys that who knows what happens next year. But I think if they are in Happy Valley, they're going to be pretty darn good.
I would advise Penn State to not let Darius Dixon get away.
Yeah.
I'm with you on number 99.
Yeah,
absolutely. But if there's one guy in this true freshman class,
it's him.
That I'm saying he cannot leave. He cannot leave. I think it's Darius. And I do like all the players, but he's Terry. If Rappleyea is number 1 on Terry's front of the list, I think it when it comes to guys you got to retain that are first year players, I think it's probably Darius for me. What say you?
No, I think it's Darius too. I mean, I think Chaz is up there, of course, just because that like he hasn't played in a little while. He's been banged up, but I just think that the ceiling is higher on Chaz than almost anyone else. Like just the position he plays is so premium. He has the frame. He needs to add to it, but he has the frame. And he's already shown he can be a successful pass rusher. I mean, that stuff earns you big bucks in the NFL and wins football games. I mean, that's Abdul Carter was not an All-American for no reason, like, so I do think that Darius has shown like the floor is a little higher for him than anybody else. Chaz would probably be the only other guy that's right there. But this is also, as Terry Smith has taken over, we've seen there are some freshmen that can really contribute right now and are only going to get better. I mean, Alex Tash burned his red shirt. LeVar Arrington burned his red shirt. Kobe Howard, I believe, has burned his red shirt and had another 30-yard catch this weekend. There are guys who can play, and other teams are going to notice that. And this portal season is going to be really interesting.
Okay, Max Raff. Now, actually, we have two more things to get to here on the Blue Wire Breakdown. I'm adding one because it just struck me on the side of my head. First thing I want to get to is something that happened last week. Drew Allar met with was on a Zoom call on Thursday. First and only time I think we've had a chance to hear from him since he suffered the season-ending ankle busted left ankle in the Northwestern loss.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great that he was made available. I'm glad Penn State was able to make him available. I'm happy that he wanted to do it. Very refreshing, very candid, very accountable. Number one, your thoughts. I know you wrote a story about him, I believe, over the weekend. Your thoughts on Drew and what we heard from him, but also what about that mustache he's attempting to grow? I'm just gonna say, look, I'm a ginger. I'm no one to talk about facial hair because I can't. It takes me forever to grow it, and if I tried to grow a mustache, it would be horrible, and I would immediately regret it. I couldn't help noticing that Drew is attempting to grow one,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, Max, I'd throw it to you on both counts: the mustache, but also what he had to say.
So you're gonna try and make me the bad guy on the mustache?
No, I already made myself the bad guy. I just said no one should ever talk about mustache growing more than me.
Yeah.
I'm setting a very high bar. Well, I could not help but notice though that Drew was attempting to do it. And Drew, I hope you're appreciating that I'm making fun of myself. I just thought it was a unique experiment.
Well, anybody who's watching on YouTube can see I've gotten a little lazy the past couple days, and nothing grows on my lip either. It all comes in on the cheeks and the neck, so I don't really have a whole lot of room to talk about it either. If I could grow one, maybe I'd give it a shot, but I can't. So I'll leave it up to Drew to do what he thinks, what he likes.
Drew, just be Drew. Drew
yeah, exactly. So Johnny and I talked about him a little bit on our live pod on Thursday, and I just think, like, look, there's a lot of opinions out there from fans, from coaches, from NFL scouts, from people who are going to be making big decisions in April on Drew Allar. But the fact that he came out and talked to us on Thursday in this season that has gone so awry and took a lot of accountability for how it went too. Like the first thing that he said that really stood out to me, it wasn't the first thing he said, but it was the top thing that stood out to me, was he was asked, how did this go wrong? And the first thing that he said in that question was, if I make 3 or 4 plays differently, this season probably goes differently. And
I was thinking about that Oregon throw.
Yeah. And look, a point that I made on Thursday as well is he has an agent who is telling him what to do at every turn right now. NFL teams are watching everything he does. You have to remember these things when he's talking in any setting, but he still didn't have to say it exactly like that, and he still didn't have to come out and talk to us. And I thought that those things were really impressive. I think that he was really good for this team as a captain over his 2 years as a captain. Sure, certainly could have played better in a lot of spots. As we talked about when he got hurt, like, who knows who failed him? Was it the coaching staff? Was it Drew himself? Was it the wide receivers? I think at different turns it was a combination of all three of those. But some impressive candor for him to come out and do that on Thursday. I thought he handled it all really well. And you know what? He's finishing his career in a couple of spots on the record books. He has the highest completion percentage of any quarterback in Penn State history. So a lot of good things to remember with Drew Allar, and I think that was an impressive bow to tie on his career.
Yeah, Max. My takeaway was, as he was talking, he was genuine. I could tell right away. Like, this was not anything that, like, it wasn't like he was. This was from the heart. This was the fact that he kept circling back to it. He genuinely wished it could have been different, and he genuinely wished that he could have done some things different. And honestly, that's all. He was being very candid, and it was definitely not. It was from the heart, and I think that's all you can ask for. He was asked the question, he answered it. Then he went back to it. So good on Drew. Good luck with the mustache, Drew, as well. If it's going to be that way. And then, all right, one more thing for you, Max, as we get out of here. Just from an information standpoint, I don't know, maybe it's not been talked about, but do you and Johnny plan on doing a second podcast, or because it's Thanksgiving Thursday, because we're trying to rush to get some things done, get out to New Jersey at some point? I just for the viewers, in case they are regular, I hope they're regular. They regularly kind of follow what we do, especially the live one. Do you have any updated info about maybe a second podcast as far as their Thanksgiving plans?
Yeah, so I need to lock it in with Johnny, but it's looking like there will be no live show this week. Everybody can go enjoy their Thanksgiving day. We love to do it, so a little disappointing, but We're all going to have fun on the holiday. There should be, we think there should be a recorded podcast ready on Thursday morning, but we got to iron out the details. So, but you can stay tuned. There'll be something. You'll hear from me some way. I think you'll hear from Johnny too.
Max, I think you just made every Penn State football fan's Thanksgiving.
I know. That's what we're here for.
That is why I wanted to I look out for Penn State fans too. They're like, I better hear me some Max Ralph at some point later in the week, or there's going to be hell to pay. So now they know. Also, there's some pressure on you to deliver now that this is going to be out there. I know.
Look, you have my word. Even if it's not in a podcast, you'll hear from me some way on Thursday.
All right, this be better. You better podcast now.
Yeah.
All right, Penn State fans. That's it for the Monday reaction to Terry Smith. He's really. I know it's a small sample size, but Max, I don't want to use the word compelling, but I'm going to use the word compelling. It's just you just never, whatever he says, like he means it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying. But sometimes coaches just kind of say stuff, and you kind of like, I don't know if they really meant that. Yeah. I feel like 99.9.8% of what Terry Smith has said in his post game pressers and also his Monday pressers and even his Wednesday pressers. He's been it, and I just think that it's been very enjoyable and refreshing to hear him and also to see him and listen to him grow as the leader of the Penn State program.
Yeah, he's old school, right? He is. He's old school through and through. He's blue collar. He's a lot of whatever word you want to use. He is that. And who knows how this works out? Again, I said a couple times through the podcast, I don't know if the model that he's got right now would work in college football in this current era. But as far as
that's his model, with him, that's what he's gonna. You know what? Right. That's all that matters.
Yeah, as far as us dealing with him, which matters very little in the grand scheme of things, but he's been great to deal with because, like you said, he's just open, honest. He's blunt. He doesn't filibuster on the stand in any way, and it's been impressive, I would say.
Okay, all right, Max. That's it. Look for more Max and Johnny, maybe Max and Johnny, or maybe just Max in some kind of podcast setting. It might not be live, but you know what? The second best thing, it's better than no Max or no Johnny. That's what I would tell Penn State football fans. That's it for the Blue White Breakdown podcast. It's Rutgers week. Penn State is striving to become bowl eligible. We'll see how it plays out, and you will hear one way or another. You're going to hear from Max and I after the game.